You're always fast on the uptake.
Fast on the uptake, man. Always waiting to podcast.
Um, Chaz Smith, today is February 23rd, 2024. It is the grit. Happy President's Day this week.
Happy President's Day to you, David Lee Scales. How did you celebrate our presidents?
It's a great, sadly, with working, I don't get the day off for President's Day. Are we the only country who celebrates the day for our leader?
There's no way. There's got to be tons of countries, though, to be honest, I am unaware specifically of any, but there's got
Well,
to be.
countries with dictators, for sure.
Yeah, they celebrate daily. They get daily President's Day. Every day is President's Day in North Korea.
Exactly. Yeah. It's weird, right? President's Day, what are we doing? Why? And there is no official celebration. You don't really get the day off. I don't know if banks do, but
Yeah, banks do, and like it is a official public holiday. So, yeah, banks, schools, any like federal employee, it's off,
weird.
mandatory. World Surf League off.
Speaking of which, they do not have a new CEO. Whoops.
Oh, I was. This was really truly the high water mark of Beach Crit, though. All things considered, I gotta say.
I got roped in to your guys' silly games.
I got roped in too, man. Everybody got roped in. That's the best. I feel when uh the shtick is so thick that even the participants are hoodwinked by the whole thing. That's when you know it's good comedy.
It's when you know the whole thing is a farce. So last week we published an episode I announcing Joe Carr as the new WSL CEO. And then I don't know, 2 hours after posting, it was into Friday evening. I was preparing a chimichurri, had poured myself a glass of wine at that point, was half a glass deep. I get a phone call from Chaz. Don't usually get phone calls from one another. It's usually a quick text message, but a phone call rang through. He's like, "Hey man, can we print a retraction? What do we do? We made a mistake." So what was the mistake and how did it develop?
So I went to bed, or right before I went to bed, I think a couple days, or maybe it was even the day before we met for our podcast. Yeah.
News story broke the night. It was like within 12 hours of
Yeah,
us
within
publishing.
12 hours. So anyway, I was scrolling through Beach Grit as I do and saw a story from Derek that Joe Carr was the new CEO of the World Surf League. And I was like, well, wow, this is news. I have heard Joe Carr's name mentioned. And I think I even had a chat with him once via the wife's business tentacles. So he was part of Thrill One, or is part of Thrill One, which is Dana White, I do believe's company that is kind of scooping up action sports properties. So Thrill One bought, I do, if I'm not mistaken, they bought Street League Skateboarding, and also have, I know for a fact they bought Nitro Circus, the thing, and turned it into Nitro Rally. So Nitro Circus may still be going, but there is Nitro Rally, which is like a rally car kind of whatever thing. Anyway, uh, Joe Carr, has been around the block, I guess, in the extreme sports. And so Derek published Joe Carr, new CEO. And I was like, well, this makes great and perfect sense right here. And started launching in, my own to like, hey, I got to meet Joe Carr now. It's time to give Joe Carr the original ELO treatment of, and you and I talked about it, of
Yeah.
offering an olive branch to the incoming CEO. Like, this does not need to be contentious, right? Like, I am happy to meet with anyone, happy to chat, happy to get the new person's take on what professional surfing means, where it needs to go, all this stuff. So go to bed, and then I think I woke up. I can't remember the timeline here, but anyway, Derek, Derek let me know that he had made a mistake, that he had been forwarded a 5-year-old or sorry, he had been told that Joe Carr was the new CEO from a typically reliable source. Derek was busy, and so typically Derek is really good about vetting. I'm the one who needs a handler.
Mm.
Derek is on the game. And so Derek had, I think, done a quick Google search, had found a 5-year-old press release when Joe Carr used to be working for the WSL, thought it was new, posted it. Off we went, and then all hell breaking loose, David Lee Scales. All hell breaking loose.
So I'm wondering though, who identified that it was inaccurate? Did the WSL actually reach out to Derek to let him know?
Yes, Derek and I both got reached out to by, I won't say who, but higher ups within the organization. And it wasn't like, it was a very gracious
Yeah.
to both of us, very, very gracious, but it was from a trusted source within behind the wall of positive noise who said, nope. And also, I got though from this fantastic person who said that the phone, his slash her phone, had been blowing up like crazy, couldn't take a break here, and so had to, we gotta fix this. And I, was like, oops.
Yeah.
And the person told me, well, shows goes to show that a lot of people read Beach Grit. So at the end, silver linings, David Lee Scales.
Yeah, well, obviously I read the story that morning when we woke up to podcast and had already built out the show's kind of structure for the day, but then added that to it. Um, but what's interesting is they still don't have a CEO. I mean,
No,
the story of not having a CEO is almost a bigger story than them hiring Joe Carr. And our kind of uh, guesses that we were making on what Joe Carr would do or what it all meant that they would hire him and what he would be doing with it, all of it's even more salient now, knowing that they don't have a CEO. We were talking about the potential for them to sell, them driving this thing off of a cliff. All of that is more true now without a CEO in position after the second event of the season.
for sure. And a couple additions here, a couple more wrinkles. Somebody, I think, commented or, yeah, how funny it was back to the original that you and I think you had read Derek's press release live about the Tokyo Olympics and the 2021
And I
Tokyo Olympics.
hesitated when I said the Tokyo Olympics because
And also,
I got paused by that. I was like, wait, what?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
but you and I just both like muscled right through it. Like, oh, who knows?
I know.
Like I think even I said at the time, gobbledygook of a World Surf League.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Their corpo speak is so deep and thick that let's not bother with it, right? Let's just move on to to
all
continuing Sophie Goldschmidt's vision in real
all
time.
of the evidence was right in front of us. I just trusted Derek. That's all it came
Yeah.
down to. I
No,
trusted Derek.
but it made for a way funnier story, and I think laughs all around, except probably not in the Joe Carr household nor the World Surf League household, which I also was shared a message on their like not their Slack channel, but I think there's a WhatsApp or something, World Surf League group where the athletes and whatnot are kept apprised of, details, blah, blah,
Yeah.
blah. One got sent out from which I heard was written from Jessie Miley Dyer herself saying, Beach Grit, everyone, just to let you know, Beach Grit published a fake news story. Jessie Miley Dyer using Trump's fake news. Who would have seen that coming? But
Ooh, except we
yeah,
would have seen that coming if you're watching Instagram this week. We'll get into it.
exactly. But
Um,
fake news, yeah, Jesse Miley Dyer, really, we don't have a CEO. Back to your point, which should be more worrying. If I was a
yeah.
World Surf League surfer or whatever, I would say, okay, your Beach Grit mistakenly published that you guys have a CEO, but in fact, you don't have a CEO. You haven't had an active CEO for months.
Yeah.
There seems to be, she said in that message to the surfers and whatnot, that search is actively ongoing. I'm thinking, wait a second, for this coveted, this prized position that you're telling everyone, World Surf League, momentum is real, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, for this perch that anybody but anybody should want, you're still searching 6 months on with no end in sight. That is very suspect to me. And I've heard more suspect things to go along with that, David Lee Scales.
Well, it's an indicator that the company's on autopilot, and if they can run the best two events that they've run in a very long time without a CEO,
Yeah.
then everything's on autopilot. It's also an indicator that everybody's spread thin. Like we've talked about in the past, Eric Logan was the one who was like silk screening the jerseys, and that's why he
Yeah.
misspelled Kanoa's last name and
Agarshi.
whatever. Like this is the co-CEOs have full-time important gigs with the organization, but they still have enough time to be partial CEO.
Yep. To
So
lead.
yeah,
They
it's a
still have
real
time to lead the entire organization.
It
I
is
mean,
a real indicator of what's going on.
so
But
I
this whole thing, by the way, is an indicator that all of our listeners should listen to everything we say with a grain of salt, a
oh,
heavy grain of salt, a Maldon uh, grain of salt.
here's the lesson
Blake.
to the dear listener and everyone, David Lee Scales. In this day and age of misinformation, of slapdash surf journalism, everyone should listen to everything with a giant grain of salt. Like
Mm,
every bit of news you read, from the New York Times on down to Beach Grit, should be read with a grain of salt. That's the
great.
truth in our day and age. So this was a nice little lesson to everyone. Grains of salt. Buy that salt.
Absolutely. And it's also bullet dodged by um Joe Carr. Sorry, I'm trying to look up something right now. Bullet dodged by Joe Carr because he dodged hold on, I'm gonna play
He
something for
dodged a
you.
bullet. I was going to say W's World Surf League didn't dodge a bullet. Joe Carr dodged a bullet. Whoever they put in place there, except here's
Hold on. Sorry to interrupt. I'm gonna edit this so that it all makes sense. Uh, okay. Bullet dodged by Joe Carr because Eric Logan's Poo Poo Touch would have affected him drastically. There would be no way for Joe Carr to have done his job properly. And in fact, we have a new theme song for Eric Logan. That one's for Elo. Anytime Elo's name comes up in conversation, that's the theme
every
song.
time I touch turns to shit. Uh, Elo already touched Joe Carr, though, I think. Joe Carr
Mm.
was in the building. Oh, except was Elo? Oh, Elo might not have been. They might have been ships in the night, now that I think about it, because
Oh, okay.
Joe Carr was there, hired under Sophie Goldschmidt to do X, Y, and Z. Might have been pre Eric Logan being hired to do the WSL studios. Let's hope for Joe Carr. Otherwise, Joe Carr is looking at his dwindling life fortunes, wondering where it all went wrong. And Joe Carr, if you were in the building with Eric Logan, then you can now know where it goes wrong. The problem, it's great to identify something, when you can look back and say, this is the moment when everything went wrong. The problem is there, David Lee Scales, do you know of yet an antidote for the poo poo touch?
Mm. Great question.
There
Drink
was
AG1, drinkag1.com/serve.
so Joe Carr, if you are indeed, if your life is in shambles right now, if things have all gone off the tracks, please, there's a portal for you.
Uh-huh.
drinkag1.com/surf. Boom, right back in the saddle.
Everything you need: gut health, immunity, protection, energy boost, better sleep, 90-day money back guarantee. Are you kidding me? There's no reason not to try. You can cleanse that poo poo touch from your gut, your exterior, everything, and be more productive and actually be the most effective CEO that the WSL has ever had.
Yep.
Guaranteed.
I feel that drinkag1.com/surf put in that 90-day guarantee. I don't remember that before. I feel that that has directly to do with the poo poo touch. Them knowing, hey man, poo poo touch, depending on how touched you got by the poo poo, it might take more than 30 days. It
Mm.
might take more than 60 days, but guaranteed, if you are drinkag1.com/surf for 90 days, that poo poo stain is off you.
It is a horrific stain, let me
Yep.
tell you. But just because DJ Seaweed did such a good job last week, I just want to play a little clip again from that banger.
I wish him well. Surfing seems it's upside down. The girls are boys and the boys are girls now. The poo poo touch is the touch of poo poo. Cause I don't want no chickens and cho poo. The poo poo touch,
It's too good.
I mean, the poo poo touch is the touch of poo poo is maybe one of my favorite lines in the
The
jam.
solid lyric. Well,
Yep.
speaking of which, the Sunset Pro wrapped up this past week. Phenomenal event. Good day, David and Chaz. I opened up the Sunset contest on YouTube and noticed that they've completely disabled the ability to chat. For the longest time, the chat was completely unmoderated, and it had sort of developed into a life of its own. It created a quasi celebrity chat personalities like Chicken Joe and Solomon. They were constant wars raging between Brazilians and the Anglosphere. We were able to mock the WSL, but now it's all gone. Most people watching were there simply for the chat. And I feel even less of an incentive to tune in. And it's likely that many others feel the same way. Is it another example of the WSL being completely out of touch with its own fan base? Keep work.
I mean, I was shocked, to be honest. I had been forwarded that they had disabled the YouTube chat, and at first I didn't believe. I thought, okay, you're in a weird region, or because why would they do that? Why
Yeah.
would the WSL take something that, like, and look, Beach Grit's open thread live chat. That's where all people need to be. Go over there. There is a great, if you want to chat through it, there's a place for you. But during WSL events, like for the last however long they've had that feature, when I'm watching on YouTube, I'll leave that chat thing open and just be observing, right? Just
Yeah.
watch, okay, what are the people on YouTube saying? Uh, and it never, or obviously I'm not watching the entire event, but the times I watched, it didn't seem to be devolving into where you
I
think it might go to, like into your poo, you're dumb, I hate you, whatever, Brazil sucks, burn everyone. Like there was like it was a genuine conversation. I think to the listener's point, it had taken on a life of its own where it wasn't just kooks weighing in. There was some of that, but yeah, like the name Chicken Joe and stuff, right? I would keep seeing popping up, and it did seem like a community. And so it just shows the US or that the World Surf League is just absolutely not paying attention. I'm sure they were told, hey, there's bad things happening here in the chat. There's naughty words. There is like people are getting triggered. There's X, Y, and Z. Better just to cancel it than to let this thing fester. But it wasn't festering, and it just shows they were never actually engaged. Nobody even said, "Well, let's sit through a contest and watch the our YouTube chat and see what goes on there." There was a
yeah.
World Surf League, if I'm not mistaken, moderator who was contributing there for a minute, but it seemed like somebody was actually having fun with it, therefore must have been like an intern or somebody so down on the low down on the totem pole that they thought, oh, this is kind of cool, and then no, this is not cool. And mysteriously, I will say, the thing was disappeared after
Right.
Felipe Toledo announced his mental health break. So I wonder if the Toledo camp was like, hey, look at all these commenters, all this comment, et cetera, drove Felipe to this, or helped drive him to this, where the World Surf League is like, okay, great, problem solved, no more commenting, just
Yeah.
let's run this thing in a vacuum.
I
Idiots.
so I don't think it's Felipe was the reason, but I do think it's an indicator of what we were talking about last week about them looking to sell immediately, and that whoever they're selling to
Doesn't
is
want that.
now doing their due diligence and kind of going through the details. And so they're trying to kind of cover up any negativity that would exist on their platforms. That's the only thing I can imagine it being, because if your plan is long-term growth, like sustainable growth, you would engage with the community at any opportunity. That is the currency nowadays. Fan engagement ends up being juicing the algorithm and getting you, more sponsor dollars and eyeballs and all that sort of thing. So it seems like they're in a mode where they're not really looking at that sustainable growth. They're instead polishing everything, you know?
So to your specific point, I heard a rumor straight from the North Shore, from a reliable source, and it seemed like his source is also reliable. And his source was Ziff's out. That Ziff is done with the whole thing. Uh, and I asked, like, looking to sell immediately, and he said this guy didn't have any real information. All he had was Ziff is out. Like,
Yeah.
and obviously Dirk Ziff is not going to walk away from this thing, but it feels like, again, you and I have been talking about it for now probably close to a year on the show about it. Just the writing is on the wall, and I think a lot of smoke. And yeah, I would imagine that a sale will happen within this year. I think it makes
Yeah.
perfect. The value, the stock of pro surfing will never be higher
Yeah.
than right before the Chopu Olympics. Maybe right after, depending on how banger that event goes. But yeah, I feel that this is it for Ziff. And another thing this source told me was that so the WSL roughly gets about 3 million viewers per event. So roughly 3 million people tuning in. It's a fine number, yeah.
Yeah.
What I heard for them to like basically break even on their thing is they need 33 million viewers per event. So they need somehow to find 10 times more viewers. And that seems like
11.
that, yeah, 11 times more viewers. That seems like that is not happening. Like it
No.
seems like that 3 million, you can maybe grow that up to 4, but
Yeah.
that is your audience right there.
Yeah, no, there's no way they hit 33. But interestingly, when the reason why Ziff got involved and purchased the WSL was because his wife, Natasha, wanted to elevate female professional surfing. And let's be honest, 2024, they've executed that goal. It took them until now, but if the sale is imminent, they could actually state that we executed our goal. You know,
Yeah.
this is the year. I mean, coming off a pipe, the women stole the show. Caitlin Simmers, I mean, it wasn't just Caitlin Simmers. Caitlin Simmers got the big headline because of her personality, I think, and she took the win. But there was, of course, Betty Lou Sakura Johnson, of
Molly
course, Molly
Picklum.
Picklum. And now going into this event, they did the same thing. Like
Yeah. Stole the
it's
show.
the most exciting part of
Stole.
professional surfing right now is the women and what's going on and the little individual battles that are happening between a bunch of them and the fact that they've kind of overthrown the old guard. Nobody's having a conversation about Tyler Wright or Sally Fitzgibbon right now.
No, and stole the show. Not only stole the show like with subpar men's surfing, stole the show with Jack Robinson putting on an
Yeah,
absolute clinic out there, right? I mean,
right.
it wasn't like, oh, the men are boring, and so let's and the women is something different, right? And they're the leaps and bounds they are taking in terms of, charging and all of that is wow, that's fun to watch. But no, like of course that is fun to watch, but fun to watch even when placed right alongside Jack Robinson, like again, like painting a masterpiece out at sunset. And
Jack, the men's performances are thrilling to watch. So nothing to take away from them, but Molly Picklum's single wave, or single turn 9.67 that she got on the closeout, that was a section that, nobody else would have hit full stop, regardless of gender. I
yeah,
haven't seen somebody go that aggressive at an end section at sunset since Andy Irons.
well, and the like, I mean, moreover, the Picklums and the Simmers and the Betty Lou's and this crop now, it's not like, okay, the new guard have arrived and now these guys are going to take over tour. Heck no. Right nipping on their heels, we have Aaron Brooks and Sierra Kerr. We have a whole nother batch that's going to come in. And then, like, yeah, this is where women surfing moving forward, the battles are going to be more exciting. The tension is going to be better. All of it is it's going to be a better spectacle. And perfectly, there's a lot less women in the draw than men still, right? I mean, what is it?
It's
How
a
many
better
women are there?
tour that way.
Precisely. You can get done. I mean, they should start trotting the women out, honestly, now on the choicest 2 days of any waiting period, because you can finish the women's tour in 2 days, right?
Yeah,
I think so. I think you can run all the way
for
up
sure.
until the quarters day one and then run quarters to finals day two alongside intermittent men's heats. But they should realize that the surf fan now, this is what we wanted to do. It actually worked. Uh, okay, let's choicest 2 days of waiting period go to women.
I totally agree. And they did that in this event. The women got the best conditions at sunset. Um, what would be really cool to see is, how they do overlapping heats?
Yeah.
Why not overlap the men and the women?
I do not understand why they don't do this. Like, I mean, there's so many confusing, like, self-inflicted gunshot wounds that the World Surf League likes to, I mean, it honestly likes to target practice on itself. But it makes no sense why you wouldn't do in overlapping men's women. You get not only is it a treat for the viewers and both to compare and contrast, like you can actually you got no complaints then you have nobody saying oh the women got scraps this you know tour or man like all the grumpy dudes are like putting the women out because of equality, you
Right.
know, bloody, bloody, blah. That solves all of that immediately. And
Yeah.
it's not like there's rules or laws or bylaws. Again, Moses on the top of Mount Sinai and the World Surf League, you can change all of this at the drop of a hat. Just do it, change it, make it better. Drop trestles tomorrow. Like announce that trestles was a, you know, a fine experiment that didn't really work because it's not going to give us a champion, especially not this year.
Yeah. Well, I'm thrilled for the way that this season is kicked off. I've
You
always heard,
survived. Did you not survive too?
dude,
On top of it all, you didn't survive.
I was hoping you would not bring this up. I picked Baron Mamiya.
Oh man, bloodbath.
It's the worst. I feel it's like I wanted to win so bad.
Yeah.
Like I have not been this pissed off at myself in a very long time. And the reason is because prior to the event, I had like, you know, a couple of different people I'm looking at picking. Jack Robinson, who ends up winning the event. Jordy Smith was honestly on my list. I looked at
Yep.
Jack and I go, I'm not gonna pick Jack because
You need him down the
I'm gonna
line.
yeah, maybe I'll use him in Margaret River or something. J Bay, maybe. Uh Jordy, I'm like, Jordy, I would not have put on my team for the last few years, except that he has all of the talent to win a world title. And he's came out like at Pipe, he surfed incredibly. I felt like there
Yeah.
was a spark, a revitalized spark in Jordy that
Jordy
I
Smith
hadn't
is
seen in a long
back.
time. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so I identified that at Pipe. I never said it on air. So I can just kind of pick that as my sneaky pick and get through. But then I looked at Baron Mamiya and I go, well, Baron's won the event in the past and he was one pipe and he's coming. So he could have a sophomore slump, but he's also looking, if Jordy's looking revitalized, Baron's looking even more revitalized. I don't need Baron for the rest of the year. Boom, Baron's my pick.
I'll tell you where you went wrong, David Lee Scales. This is the thing. If you're listening and still survived, let me give you some hot tip. Sure, it's, you know, who's the informed surfer, blah, blah, blah. But I think so much of surviving, because again, it's not who's going to win, it's who's going to get through the round of 32. It has to do with silly heat strategy and choosing the right waves and all that. The veteran pick in time of doubt, like Mamiya just does not have enough tour heats under the belt. So is always going to make mental mistakes, like still in this young part of his career.
It's true.
Like you can get a fire, you know, even if he's won an event before, sitting out there for 40 minutes, that is 40 minutes to make massive mistakes where the vets don't make those massive mistakes. They can get beat, but it won't be getting beat because of mental error, which I think Mamiya just mental errored his whole heat.
Yeah. Well, two heats actually.
Yeah.
And yeah, it is true because if you look at who created like slaughters of survival league, players in the past, it was Seth Moniz last year at Pipeline. It was Griffin
Colapinto forever.
Colapinto.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's young guys. So
And
it's
but
good
also,
advice.
but to Jordy Smith, funny enough, I was watching Sunset, watching the finals. Wife came down to grab a cup of coffee, and she paused and said, "Jordy Smith is still surfing," which I laughed and said, "Yes." But it's Jordy Smith, honestly and truly. I don't even know how old he is. He can't be more than let's make an on-air bet, David Lee Scales. How old is Michael Jordan? I'm gonna
I'm
say
gonna
he's
guess
34.
I was gonna guess 36.
Okay, let's see.
Are you looking it up?
Yep, because we gotta solve this now. Jordy Smith age. We got 36, David Lee Scales for the win.
Ooh,
But
boom.
that's 36 years feels like 5 different lifetimes.
Yeah.
Picture when
Yeah.
Jordy Smith was like the hot, you know, guy coming up who Nike was fighting over to
Well,
make the face of Nike, or even
specifically, it was 18 years ago because he was
yeah,
18. So that
yeah,
it's almost 2 decades.
yeah, of Jordy Smith. And
God,
so
we are ancient, dude.
Jordy Smith is a lot older. Imagine living those 5 lifetimes. Jordy Smith, I bet if you could sit on Jordy Smith's knee, he would share such wisdom, such pearls of truth and insight into why we are here, what we are supposed to be doing.
Well, if he does, if you watch, I know you don't, but if you watch Stabs, how surfers get paid, every time they interview Jordy, he is among the most interesting interviews. Like he's candid, like he doesn't mind calling a spade, and he has a lot of insights just from his time in it and going through the ups and downs, you know.
I wonder if Jordy is the one hand or one side of pro surfing. He's like, the last one of the last remaining of the time when surfers got paid. When Jordy Smith is able now at 36 for sure to retire and live well for the rest of his life on
Yeah,
his surf earnings. He has
for sure.
invested it in business, South African businesses and who knows what else. He has, I'm sure, he's all totally fine. And so thus being totally fine, he can say whatever he wants. Jordy
Yeah,
is set for life, right?
yeah.
I wonder if like the upcoming crop stickerless boards, if they will also say whatever they want because there's nothing to lose, or if there is so few marbles to grasp that they will just be keeping their mouth shut and just not wanting to rock anything because they need their $33,000 a year to eat a poke bowl.
It's a totally different. You can't afford a Pokeball for 33,000. It's a totally different landscape now. The reality is they're probably more afraid of getting canceled, just socially, than they are protecting a paycheck. And Jordy, because of his geriatric age, he's savvy enough to be able to make kind of critical assessments without being canceled and without actually like flipping somebody off. You know
Yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean? Like his analysis of things is always like very thoughtful and critical, but it's not just for the
Mean.
sake of like throwing mud, which when you're in your 20s, you probably blur those lines a bit more.
Uh, Speaking of surfers, I can't believe we're actually doing surfer talk here, David Lee Scales.
Oh, I've got more too.
If you can imagine. What did you feel about the giant dud of Cole Houchemond?
Great callback from a conversation we had before the season started because I pointed to him and I'm like, man, I think he surfs good, but I don't think he's a standout compared to like any other, up and coming rookies any given season.
But he was
But
like the hot pick, right? All the other pros were
everybody,
like, "This is watch, keep your eye on Cole Houchemond."
everybody in the know, like coaches, trainers, shapers, they're just like that kid, he's gonna blow up. His surfing is incredible. Like in at Pipe and at Sunset, he surfed very well. He just happened to lose his heats. So I'm going to maintain a level of optimism about what he
Except
has to deliver.
problem is though, for a Cole Houchemond, as we previously discussed, it's that dumb heat knowledge is what gets you by, which is unfortunate, right? It's too bad, but whatever, that's part of the game. But I'm Cole Houchemond has to be feeling a huge amount of pressure heading over to Portugal now with the mid-season cut. But how many events away? I mean, they go Portugal to where? To where?
I think it's 5 events and then a cut.
So they got Portugal as will be the third event. So that means they go somewhere else. And then I think the cut is still at Margaret, right?
Yeah, cut still at Margaret. I'm gonna look it up real quick.
I will say
So
while
we
you're looking,
go
oh
we
yeah,
go Pipe, Sunset, Portugal, Bells, Margaret.
yeah, there we go. So for Cole, looking down, thinking, I need, if you throw away or if you get a bad result in Portugal, then it basically means you have to quarter or semi Bells and also do very well at Margaret. Like you
Yeah.
better get your game back on, or other you are relegated, which I will say, as bad as finals day is, as absolutely awful as finals day is, I gotta say, the cut uh doesn't make up for that awfulness, but the cut is fun. The fact that you get like a 5 event and then you have a version of a final at Margaret River where there's real stakes
Hmm.
feels good.
Yeah, well, Cole wouldn't be the first guy to show world-class talent and then get bumped off tour and have to fight his way back. Ethan Ewing was in that position a few years ago. Connor O'Leary, who's now in fifth place, was in that position, probably I think more than once. So he could do it, but yeah, it is a bummer for sure.
He could, but
Um,
except for also the tour is going away. You got to feel extra
this
pressure
is the
of
last year
like,
you got the chance.
yeah,
So two storylines here that I wanted to discuss. I guess claims are back.
they sure are mid
So
wave claims, mid. like not even finished yet claims.
It's been a while since we've had a conversation about claims. I'm sure it's been a barrel or not years past. Um, a friend pointed out to me, he goes, Kelly Slater claiming his carving 360 was the lowest point in Kelly Slater's career.
Could have been. It
And
very well could have
he's
been.
like, I liked the guy for a lot of different reasons for a long time. And for the last few years, I've kind of had reasons to not love him. But after witnessing that, he's like, if I met him in real life, I don't even want to really meet him anymore. Like that was depressing. And I remember Kelly just a short time ago it might have been in the booth at Lowers watching the finals day where they called him in, and he said that he and his buddies had a bet going on tour, like the tour surfers, where if you claimed a wave and then the judges ended up scoring it, I think he said less than an 8, then you got docked $100. Like you owed everybody in the group $100. Kelly Slater needed a 6 point something on that ride. He did a carving 360, claimed it hard, and
Thought he
got
had it.
a 4.93.
Okay, can we talk about that though a little bit?
Yes.
Oh, I thought you froze.
I thought you froze.
Do you think or do you not think that Kelly Slater was underscored for that carving 360?
No, he was scored
Now
appropriately
you
for
did
that.
freeze.
No,
Cursed it.
no, I'm still here. Can you hear me? Check
Oh
one,
yeah,
two.
got you, got
Check
you,
one,
got you,
two.
got you
Okay.
back.
Okay. No, I do not think that he was underscored. I think that was the appropriate score for that maneuver.
A beautiful floating Kelly Slater up to the lip. What's he gonna do? Oh, a classic from 10 years ago, the carving 3. Just think Ron from Board Porn was back in his New York home watching that, like sitting, watching the World Surf League, popcorn on the lap, jumped up at that moment, popcorn flying everywhere. Ron running around the house, pumping his fist. Yes.
In your vlog discussing Kelly Slater never going to have a heat win again in his life,
Yes,
you did refer to it as a backside carving
I
360.
did.
Yeah.
Who, like, I will, because all I have when I think of carving 3, there's one carving 3 in my mind, and it's not Kelly Slater's.
Yeah.
It is Board Porn Ron's.
Well, Kelly, no doubt that's a difficult maneuver, but Sunset, as massive as the playing field is, and when you watch what Jack Robinson did in the final, where
Time
he's
bandit.
doing what?
It's a time bandit, man.
Well, when you see him doing a bunch of giant carves on giant sections and then finding the barrel, like that is utilizing the entire playing field and variety of maneuvers is how you get a big score at Sunset. Doing one maneuver, aside from Molly Picklam's, I guess, is not how you get a score. And that wasn't a critical maneuver. You know what I
It
mean?
wasn't.
Like it's on a
It was
soft
in a
section.
burgery section. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a burgery section on that wave. It's not a wave where there's like a lot of intensity on it and you're trying to like use all of your speed to maximize to do something crazy. It's a burgery section that you have no other options on and you're trying to create intensity on this otherwise no, so that and it's hard to do and it's cool when somebody does it, but it's not thrilling.
The Kelly Slater, I really do unfortunately stand behind. I know it's a bold statement, but he will never win a heat on a World Surf League tour again. I mean, maybe on a Legends tour or a Legends event, but he won't. He will not win in the first round. And again, people always say, yeah, if the waves are pumping at Chopu, et cetera, et cetera. Obviously, like there's obviously in a ridiculous, or not that it's that ridiculous, I suppose, but there is a scenario, certainly. But every bit has to be exactly right. And look at, we had pumping pipe. Pumping pipe. Did Kelly
Yeah.
win a heat? No.
Yeah.
That is
Yeah.
Kelly, like Sunset, of course, he dislikes. Did he win a heat? No. Like, I think Kelly, the best Kelly can hope for the rest of his championship tour career is to not be in the elimination round. And that means getting second in round 1 is the
The
best Kelly can do.
the best he can hope for is that a time machine is created so that he can go back to that pipe win from 2 years ago and then actually retire on
Yeah.
stage.
I mean, my goodness, poor Kelly. But
Uh,
yeah, he's doing Kelly.
Well, speaking of claims, one thing I wanted to mention at the pipe event, and I never got around to it, but now is as good of a time as any, is Caitlin Simmers did my favorite claim of all time. And I meant to pull the video grab and make me a meme out of it and then just save that video and make future memes about it. And it was, she came out of a back door bomb. And then there was that warbly end section, like whitewashy. She does a turn and then like hits kind of some of the bump and chop, but she completes the turn. And then just kind of like goes limp and hits a warble and just like
Yeah.
gets limped off the wave.
Yep.
And it was like, it was so funny. She almost looked like a marionette, you know, just like her arms kind of like, oh, and then just like got bumped off her board. But it wasn't, it was intentional. It was like her, what she was messaging through that was, what the F else could I possibly do? I got shacked at backdoor. I did a carve on a crazy section. I'm just like, what else can I do? Just go limp. You know what I mean? And it was so funny. First of all, like I laughed when I saw it, but I also was like, what a badass, you know, like this is the pinnacle of like executed every goal you ever hoped of, complete adrenaline dump, completely out of everything, done here.
Katie Simmers has such a natural cool. I really hope this never gets toyed with, that marketing departments and or World Surf League chiefs and or anyone doesn't get involved with her and say, hey, try to act like this or say this or do like. Katie Simmers is perfect. She is perfect surf all by herself. She is now, I feel, the poster child, or at least the poster child I want for this is surfing. Surfing
Yeah.
is Katie Simmers. Back to claims real quick though. Do they bother you as much as they used to? Have you reconciled yourself to the claim?
I feel the exact same way I always have, which is if it's completely organic and just like you have so much energy pulsing from what just happened that your body reacts spontaneously, then that is fine. If you are doing it to try to
Juice the judges.
elicit any emotion from anybody else, no good.
So here's watching this one. Claims, obviously, it's such an old topic, and I feel it is, old grumpy dudes are like, claiming, blah, blah, blah. Like, don't want to be one of those. But I was thinking, just watching this one, how much cooler it looks when you don't claim. Like when John rides an excellent wave and like just goes out the back looking for more, you think that guy is so cool that he can have a wave that I couldn't even begin dreaming of in my life. A wave that I can watch and be amazed at every turn and every,
Yeah.
everything that happened. And the fact that it doesn't even elicit yes
Yeah.
is like, that's cool. Like it's a lot cooler not to claim. Like
It
those who have a like Jack Robinson's barrel, where he claimed it after the barrel at spontaneously claimed at sunset. Uh, I get it. I get you scored this, you backdoored this crazy little teepee and you're hyped. But man, it's a lot cooler if you weren't.
I think it now that we're really dissecting it, I think even in that scenario, it's only cool, or the scenario I described, it's only cool after a barrel. Like if you rip a wave, no matter how hard, a claim is never really appropriate. But if Mother Nature puts in front of you this cavern that you somehow navigate, what you're the exuberance is coming out of like, I was in an impossible situation and I found my way through it. I am so grateful and thankful, you know. But just like ripping a wave or doing a big 360 air is kind of under your own strength, which is
Look at how cool I am.
not cool, uncool. All right. Well, do you want to do pros in the wild or tools to live by first?
Let's go a pro in the wild.
All righty. David and Chaz, I am writing for several reasons. First of all, I wanted to thank you for your hard work. I discovered your podcast a couple of months ago after a trip to Nicaragua. I felt the need to improve my fitness, and listening to the grit has me looking forward to my next workout hour. I started with the current episodes, but soon had to go back to episode 1. Oof,
Whoa.
I hate to think about that.
I
Thanks for the motivation. Anyways, the reason for my note, an article came across my Google feed yesterday titled, quote, Recovering Properly from the Holidays. Properly spelled with a B instead of a P. It was by Surfer Mag. First of all, I didn't know Surfer was still alive. Secondly, I guess they don't have spell check, but mostly what caught my eye was a photo of Jimbo Pellegrin. I knew he had been in an accident, but didn't know all the other issues afterwards. What's the latest grit on him? The reason I bring this up is I had a Pros in the Wild moment with Mr. Jimbo. It was 20 years ago. I was at an internet cafe just above Padang, writing to my girlfriend back in Florida. Jimbo was a couple computers over, chatting rather loudly with somebody via the internet about how pumping Padang had been the week before and how he was getting so barreled. Funnily, I actually thought he was Butterbean, the wrestler, and he must have heard my eyes rolling from across the room. He turned to me and said, "Here, you want to see?" He turned his monitor towards me, and I almost fell out of my chair. There he was in all his 400-pound glory in a solid Padang pit. I congratulated him on the nice wave in the photo. He said thanks, seemed nice enough in that environment. I'm listening to episode 10. Uh, I'm listening to episode number 10 discussing writing, and I'm wondering Chaz's thoughts on Alan Weisbecker, who recently passed. Thanks, Brent.
Brent, thank you so much. And I am sorry for everything probably that was said up to and including which episode are we on?
256, maybe?
Up to and including episode 256. Yeah, thanks for bringing up Jimbo. Jimbo used to be a real staple in the Beach Grits. Jimbo was the whole story about Jimbo losing his arm is wild. It's a wild story.
So a couple of weeks ago when this email first came through, I put out on Instagram like a little Instagram story asking for people like, hey, does anybody know where he is now or whatever? And people just referenced older stories that Beach Grit had already published and we'd already maybe discussed, but nobody had like
up to
the ground, up to the date. So I'm thinking he's pretty far removed from the coast at this point. But
really?
The story,
you don't think he's in Kauai still?
No, I think there was an update after that, because he went on this racist rant at a gas station that was caught on video.
Oh yeah, I remember.
And that I think was somewhere in like Central California or might have even been like Arizona or something. So that was post Kauai. So I have no idea where he is now. But for those, I don't even know how he came to popularity, but first time I ever saw him was
because he's a huge fat dude who got super barreled.
The first time I ever saw him was in Lost Videos, and he was surfing Padang, and he was getting barreled. And yeah, he does look like Butterbean the wrestler, 400 pounds, like getting shacked and doing turns, by the way. So it's a really remarkable sight to see.
He is not just fat, too, for those who haven't seen him. To quote Kevin Spacey in The Usual Suspects, he is orca fat.
Right. Yeah. I know we're going to get canceled for fat shaming.
He's not. I'm not shaming.
This is what it is.
He's orca fat.
Yeah, it is impressive to say the least. So, and then the story, I guess he had like addiction issues and substance use problems and stuff like that. But the story about being in Hawaii that he delivered, so he lost his arm in a car accident, was the story that ended up getting reported. And the way that he told it was he had his arm out the window and a truck went by too close in the opposing direction and he lost his arm, which is horrific to think about.
Yeah.
But if you read a couple of layers deep and heard eyewitness accounts, he had been at the bar all night long, got super drunk, had other people in the car with him, I think, sideswiped. He had his arm out the window of his own car while he was driving home drunk, and then like pulled into his area where he lived and sideswiped a vehicle, like took the turn too wide, sideswiped a parked car with his arm out his window, and that's how he lost his arm.
Boom. So, the legend grows.
Yeah. But anyways, do you have any updates?
No, I don't. I mean, unfortunately, but hopefully a listener does, and we get it.
Yeah. Chime in if anybody didn't see that Instagram post but does know where he's at. I would love an update on Jimbo. And then Pros in the Wild. Okay, let's do Tools to Live By, brought to you by Veyer. VeyerWatches.com, Chaz.
Never stops ticking, David Lee Scales, that Veyer watch.
Doesn't stop ticking, and I'll tell you what, I'm getting fed their Instagram ads. I follow them, but then they publish ads. So I see their stuff kind of every day now. And every time it pops up, they show a surfer or a diver or something, solar powered movement. I go, that's a beautiful watch. Oh, guess what? I've got one on my wrist. I sometimes those Instagram ads hit me, and I'm like, it works. The advertising works, and I want to buy the product. And I see theirs, and I think it's a beautiful product, and I'm thrilled that I already have it.
It's great.
It's a great watch. VeyerWatches.com, ocean ready, meaning that they are guaranteed waterproof, and then also assembled in the USA. Ours are solar powered. So just 6 months or 6 hours of solar energy, sunlight, powers the watch for 6 months. Pretty incredible stuff. So anyways, the ultimate tool, and we are providing tools to live by for the listeners. Here we go, Chaz.
Hey, Chaz and David. I think I need a tool to live by for me and my friend. I'm gonna cut to the chase and then give you a little backstory to fill in. But my buddy ordered a board from a local shaper here. I want to say 5 years ago now, and he's still waiting for the board. To contextualize that, in the first year, shapers can be slow, but this shaper was still making boards. They were in local shops. They were even in internationally located shops. So, you would expect the board to maybe show up soon. As time went on, in the second year, this shaper made an announcement that he was going to quit shaping. And he promised my friend he would finish his board. So, you expect maybe second year the board's going to show up. Third year, starts teasing some photos. He got a photo of the lamination. But I looked at the photo and there's like 9-sized air bubbles in the This lamination is awful. And I'm just like, oh man, I don't know if you want this thing. But, time goes on, board's still not done. And all the while, my buddy's getting these promises of board's almost done, board's hot coated, board's sanded, it's coming, whatever. Fourth year comes around, still nothing. I'll also contextualize this by saying this shaper had a kid, got divorced, started a business, all this stuff, but still. I think my buddy's been really patient, and so I guess I just am looking for some advice, guys. Does my buddy, who is incredibly patient, just let it go? Chalk it up to a good story, or does he keep pressing? All right, guys, work or whatever.
Burned by a shaper.
Work or whatever. I like that, David Lee Scales. Work or don't.
What are your thoughts? Where do you go from here? 4 years, clearly the money's gone. Clearly you're not getting your surfboard. So what is the recourse here?
Well, and I think this is a tool to live by for all of us, David Lee Scales. Important in this day and age, more important maybe now than ever, is being the bigger man. Hey, clearly you did something wrong. You wronged me, right? Like, that's okay. I'm going to take your wronging. I am not going to take it to social media. I am not going to hound you. I am not going to do anything. I obviously, whatever. I'm going to take the high road here, not mention it, just move along. It's a bummer. It was 5 years ago, let's say, what would a custom board be going for? 8, 7,
Yeah.
6?
So let's say $800.
$800, that's a bummer. It's a bummer I lost $800, but it's $800 5 years ago. Like, there's not a bill sitting on my table where I think, ooh, or there's always going to be that bill sitting on your table where you're thinking, oh, if I had that $800 from 5 years ago, I would pay this now. Obviously, duh. This is money under the bridge, as they say. And doing that, I think taking the higher road, being the bigger man or woman or trans, is a practice that makes you a better person in general. So you get the gift now. Your shaper has given you a gift. He has not shaped you a board, but he shaped your soul. You can choose to accept that gift and move on with just, when you see those people out, David Lee Scales, when you see that kind of wizened man or woman, and you think that person has an aura, that's the person who was burned by their shaper and didn't retaliate.
I agree that is the right approach to take as an individual. I'm shocked to hear you take it.
5 years. If this was like,
Uh,
hey, he promised it 3 months ago, and
yeah,
I
no,
paid him in full and all that, I'd say, well, at that point, again, what are you going to do? Like, yeah, put pressure on. Say, hey, man, I need my board,
of
or give me an
course.
alternative.
No, but
But
you're
5 years,
delusional. 5 years on, you're delusional to think that you're ever getting your money back or that you're getting that board, especially if the shaper stated that he's going out of business and that his life had gone through all those changes. That money's long gone, and that shaper's probably mismanaged his entire life and certainly mismanaged his finances. And so, no, there's a bunch of people trying to collect money from him, and you're just far down the list. So, yeah, you should absolutely make good with the reality, like Chaz is saying, and just move on with your life. But what I think that this highlights for me, this story, what highlighted was I interacted with a lot of surfboard shapers over the years, and I've seen a professionalism develop in the last decade that I did not anticipate coming. And certainly from kind of our friends at Channel Islands, you know what I mean? And like running like a really impressive international business.
clean.
Yeah, clean, like really an amazing business, pumping out high quality product consistently at a fairly large volume. But then also on the backyard builder level, like young guys getting into the game, and they have warehouse space or little shop that they pay for monthly. And you go in there and it's clean, and you look at the order card, and their order card is like really snazzy looking, and they take a deposit. They give you something in a timely fashion. It's high quality. It's really innovative. It's handmade. And I'm like, this is awesome. This is what it should be. They're also charging a price that is allowing them to grow their business. They run their QuickBooks accounting software so they know where the money's going and how to pay taxes and all that stuff. And I'm like, this is phenomenal. This is who I want to give my money to. You know what I mean? And the old way of like bro deals and it's all on the low key and like whatever results in things like this that this customer went through. And I'm just not down for it. Like you can still have personality and character and innovative design and all this kind of thing while still honoring your obligations. And so I don't want to publish, this shaper's name necessarily or shame him publicly, but as the word passes through the community. So this guy who went through this, I'm sure clearly he told his friend because his friend is the one who's calling, but I'm sure that word has gotten around in that community and people knew. They've learned. And that's probably why that shaper's even gone out of business since then. Is word got around that he's not reliable and that he might keep your money. And so go ahead and go give your money to the shaper down the street who's delivering as good of a quality of product, but actually delivers it.
I
That's
hear
where you should
you
spend your money.
completely. And in the meantime, though, harboring resentments and things that, ways you were wronged, only leads to that is the person at the party who does not have an aura, or who
Yeah.
has a poo poo touchy aura.
We for sure you saw because we got a lot of DMs about 2 months ago. There was a surfboard shaper in Central California who had an opposite scenario where he actually took somebody's deposit, built them a surfboard, and then the person was upset at the timeline for how
Yes.
long the board took to get built and expressed all of that discontent, but showed up to pick up the surfboard, put it in his truck, and drove away without paying the final installment of the payment.
Yeah.
And so the surfboard shaper screenshotted all the interactions and published it and basically said, here's the name of the surfer. Here's what he looks like. Here's his truck. And nobody should deal with this guy again. And we should try to get my surfboard back.
Did you was there resolution to that story?
There was, and the surfboard shaper ended up deleting all the posts after there was resolution, but the surfer ended up paying for the surfboard.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes but here's the thing, even in that scenario, and I'm not obviously shaper, you do you, and everyone do everyone. Taking your grievances to social media, yes, it can often work, but at what cost? Does that shaper sometimes think, man, I looked real petty there? Or does that shaper say, hey, this is the new public square. I needed to get paid. I don't run this business, on good wishes and whatnot. I actually
Yeah.
needed that money to pay my glass for sand or whatever, and so I don't care. I just needed the money.
Yeah, it's a great question. I think you always look back and you feel it was too petty. Your reaction was too petty and you probably overreacted. And that's why we didn't discuss that exchange the week that it had happened, because I almost felt a discomfort with the way that the shaper handled it. Even though I think the shaper deserved to get paid for that surfboard, I was still like, I don't know, is the, let's say, $800 that you're going to earn off of this? I think publishing this whole ugly exchange cost you more than $800 in goodwill amongst the community.
Could have, but maybe not. Maybe you and I are from a more genteel time where you just shit talk in podcasts and on blogs.
Well, that's why I didn't mention his name here, is because he deleted those posts. So I presume that he also felt a certain level of ick and then, deleted. And so now there's no point in discussing the name now. But I'll tell you what, in terms of, do you look back and feel like you were too petty? 100%.
Yeah.
Almost everything I've ever published, enough time goes by and I'm like, I really shouldn't have published that.
Yeah, when you feel that axe to grind and you go grind, when you're thinking, I am morally right here. I am in the right. I am aggrieved. I am going to grind my axe in public. No matter how right you were, uh that thing, the moral uprightness of your stance, really, that axe you grinded, that fresh part just gets real rusty real quick.
And it only allows everybody else something to gawk at and to be entertained by for a period of time, and a
Yep.
very short period of time.
This is a great tool to live by.
Yeah. Thank you, Vayer Watches.
Yeah, Vayer Watch. Thanks for making us all better people and be able to look back at ourselves and say, maybe it wasn't great, but I wasn't petty.
Exactly. We couldn't do it without you, Vayer Watches. Vayer spelled Vaer. I've said it enough now, and you've heard it enough to where Instagram's just going to start feeding you those ads. So you'll come across it. True grit or clickbait stuff. We referenced this earlier in the show. Quote, World Surf League Longboard Tour Chief enlists Donald Trump to help revive sagging fortunes. Exclamation point.
Appears true, David Lee Scales, and I bet this is going to cause much kerfuffle in the World Surf League offices, which are oft times called the Woke Surf League offices. I can't imagine this is going over well at all, David Lee Scales. Do you imagine it's going over well?
No, I cannot imagine that it is. I can see the World Longboard Tour being shuttered shortly before the rest of the tours all get shuttered. But the story here is that Kira Seal, she replaced Devin Howard, I believe, as the commissioner for the World Longboard Tour. Former champ herself, I think.
She was a competitor for sure. I don't know if she was a champ, but she was a former, at least, World Surf League Longboard Tour competitor.
Yeah, so she's the commissioner for the Longboard Tour.
I don't think she's the commissioner, though. I think they have gutted that thing so badly. I think her official title is like overseer or something like that. She doesn't even get a chief title.
Wasn't she brought on as the commissioner after Devin, though?
Yeah, in the role formerly known as commissioner, but they haven't even elevated that role to be a cabinet level position anymore. It seems like it is that you are a lowdown thing on this lowdown thing, but you're the boss of this lowdown thing.
Well, she married Billy Bush, who's heir to the Bush beer fortune, I believe.
Yes.
Is that correct? Yeah. Okay. So she married Billy Bush and posted a photo this past week of being at some fundraising event with the Bush family, her in-laws, posing with one Donald Trump.
Donald J. right there. And lest the listener get confused, because I think Derek Riley was confused, or maybe he wasn't. Maybe this Billy Bush also made a giggly mess somewhere. I should probably have searched him up, but His name is similar, exactly same sounding, different spelling from Billy Bush, Bush. This is Billy Bush, Busch. But Billy Bush, you'll remember, is the reporter. I think he's a
Yeah.
Bush relative too, who was hanging out with Donald Trump, talking about grabbing them by their, you know what it is, David Lee Scales.
I don't need to say it. But yes, I do know what it is. Different Billy Bush.
Different
This,
Billy Bush.
yeah, Kira's husband is heir to the Bush beer fortune.
Okay, so here we go though. Uh, how does this thing play? I don't know why. So I saw these. So this is a screen. It's presumed at Mar-a-Lago. I've never been to Mar-a-Lago. I mean, I've been to uh, Mar-a-Lago 2.0, which belongs to the Florida Surf Film Festival co-founder and chief, Kevin Miller. Been to his Mar-a-Lago, but not
His
Trump's.
father's
Yeah,
Mar-a-Lago.
his father's Mar-a-Lago, not Trump's Mar-a-Lago, which that's where it appears though. And anyway, so I saw this a grab on Joel Tudor's, long time, whatever, longboard champion fixture, et cetera, on his Instagram. Uh, so this, I don't know, I'm assuming Kira posted it or somebody posted it. This got out. I don't know what Kira is hoping to do with this, to be honest. And this is not an anti-Trump thing right now. I just like you being out publicly with a polarizing figure doesn't seem like it's a great move. Like, I don't know how you get so starstruck, Fanny, that you're like, oh, cool, I'm going to take my children and like press them up against Trump for a photo op. Like, the whole thing seems very, very poorly thought. Whether you're into Trump or not, or whether your husband is into Trump, if you're sitting there with husband Billy, and Billy's like, oh, we can go take pictures with Trump, then you tell Billy, hey, Billy, why don't you go take a picture with Trump? That's cool. Like, which should be a barrel or not, taking pictures with celebrities for the sake of taking pictures with celebrities.
Yeah, well, not just any celebrity. Like you said, a very polarizing figure and somebody who, in hindsight, you might regret having your photo published online with.
Pressing your
Um,
babies up against him.
well, so that's the question though. Like clearly she married into this family. The father was in Billy's father was in this photo as well. So if you married into this family where, you struck gold essentially economically in this scenario and you're
Wait, so
hanging out.
is the father the one close to her or the one on the other side of, is Kira's husband? Because Trump is being sandwiched. Trump is in a Bush sandwich,
Kira's
as
husband
it
is
were.
young. Kira's husband is young and good looking, and
So he's
that's
on
his
the other
dad on the
side.
opposite side.
Okay, okay, got it.
His name might be Billy as well. The
Yeah, okay,
dad's
because his
name.
Billy Bush is tagged, and that looks like an older dude. And I was like, oh, Kara's swinging
Yeah.
gray.
No. That's her father-in-law.
Okay.
But so if your father-in-law, who is, you have a certain level of respect for your elders and all this kind of stuff and the economic disparity there. And so you're at this event on their behalf and he's like, "Hey, come take a photo with me." It would be if your father-in-law says that to you, "Come take a photo with me and Trump." It would be very contentious for you to say, "Hey, father-in-law, I'm taking a moral stance right now and I will not stand next to that man. I will not bring my babies over. I will not have my photo taken."
But there is a way to say, oh, it's okay. It's okay. There's a way to be like demure about it. That I will say that it feels like, I don't know what Kira's politics are, but definitely husband and father-in-law were Poo Poo Touch grinning ear, uh, or grin ear to ear. Those guys were like beaming. That was like the moment of their lives. So clearly they are a Trump family, which again, dear listener, this is not an anti-Trump thing. This is like they were thrilled. Kira was pressing her baby up against him too. Who knows what her politics is? In terms of this day and age of posing with polarizing politicians, the three Ps, seems like a dumbass move, David Lee Scales. Seems
It
like
really does.
if I was walking down the street and somebody said, hey, there is President Biden. You and Biden we got a professional photographer for Instagram. You ready to do it? I would do it, David Lee Scales.
You
I would,
would.
I would do it with Trump as well. I, I am not Kira Seal. And I'm just thinking, what are you getting out of this, Kira Seal? You're getting the thrill? I mean, I am a muckraking provocateur. So I would use that opportunity to rake muck and provoke. Uh, Seal is not neither muckraking nor a provocateur. So what are you doing?
Yeah, it's interesting fodder for sure when you see it pop up in your Instagram feed and surfing just feels so small. And then you see somebody in
Longboard,
your immediate,
longboarding feels even smaller.
yeah, exactly. And somebody in your kind of immediate, I don't know, periphery posing with Trump. It was a real shocker. It was just like, whoa, wait, what?
But and the story truly though is like the World Surf League is pivot hard woke. I guarantee Jesse Miley's Dyer and these folk are looking at that thinking, no, no, no,
Oh yeah.
this is rankling for sure.
No, yeah, Ziff for sure has a very opposite political view and does not allow for dissenting opinions basically within the ranks.
I mean, I wonder if you do think Seal is not much longer for the longer boarding tour world.
Well, no, she is not, but that's also a result of everything else that we discussed in this show. It wasn't going to last much longer, anyways. True Grit number 2, quote, fake surf brand Quicksilver accused of ruthlessly stealing designs from Little Core Board Short Co.
It's true, David Lee Scales. And I don't know how these things go, right? Like with design and proprietary designs and whatnot. But the Quicksilver, again, those who follow, Quicksilver was purchased along with Billabong, Ruka, what else? Everything, Roxy, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
the entire surf industry by Authentic Brands Group, who is a, New York conglomerate, which just basically acquires IP and then slaps logos on what they want. Quicksilver, I will say, I might have to backtrack a bit there because if I'm not mistaken, the French reacquired. So the French are always very involved with Quicksilver. I think they reacquire or didn't reacquire, but have now licensed the license or have the license. So it's actually, they're paying ABG, but it's the French now who are producing the stuff, who are in charge of everything. So feels like Quicksilver might be back core adjacent. But in any case, that was an egregious ripoff of a trunk made by a small, tiny little trunk maker out of Costa Mesa, Ola Canvas, which it was a real one-to-one. And he's been making that trunk for like 2 years. And Griffin Colapinto's Quicksilver trunk looks basically minus the colorway the exact same.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. And there was a story 2 weeks ago as well. Some graphic designer on Instagram published a video calling out Rip Curl for stealing one of her designs as
Yes.
well, and had the evidence and the timelines to back it up. And it's the exact design.
Yeah. I
And I
mean,
think she had submitted it to Rip Curl
she
even.
had. And
Yeah.
it's really unfortunate. And the Quicksilvers and the Rip Curls, even if you're not, the giants you once were, if there's like design theft, come on, man. Like either don't do it, tweak it enough where it's no longer the same, or if you really, and or if your rider comes, if Griffin Colapinto came with a pair of Ola Canvas trunks, say, and said, I love this design. Can you guys do this for me? And Quicksilver says, yeah, we can do it for you. And then does it exactly the same. That's uncool. If you're going to do that, then either do a collab with the little guy or change the design enough. If you're going to take somebody's design, like this, it's not a good story. Figure it out for pity's sake. Like, and if it becomes public, then make it right, right? Like either say, we are very sorry. And, you can do it privately to the person who you ripped off, but there's got to be some kind of restitution. Like treating, like ideas as just nothing. Like what? Who cares? You're a small person. There's nothing. It was your idea. There's nothing you can do about it. We want it. We take it.
Yeah, and that's totally what's happening. They're like, our corporate attorneys, even if we're wrong and you have evidence, there's no way for you to litigate this against our corporate attorneys.
No.
So suck it.
Just eat it. Eat a bag.
Eat a bag. I don't know if we ever discussed this, but a year ago I listened to a podcast episode with the founder of Sunbum,
Yeah.
and he had
Oh,
developed Taco Bell's Yo Quiero Taco Bell ad campaign.
and sued. We did talk about this.
And the lawsuit went on for literally a decade. And it was just like he was just shoestringing the lawsuit, like barely getting enough money to pay the attorneys next week. And ultimately, in the end, got paid out. I think it was like $400 million or something like that. But the amount of tenacity required to fight that legal case is just nobody, he's the only person on the history of the planet who had it.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. But yeah, but again, to the Quicksilvers, I'm sure their designers and whatnot are getting paid pennies of what they used to be getting paid, rip curls, right? Like this surf industry has collapsed all in, but still, don't just go steal.
I know.
Go create your own stuff, man.
I could imagine too. It could just be a designer within the brand who's like phoning it in. They went
For
surfing
sure.
that morning. They have 1 hour to get their design done. They were scrolling Instagram. They saw something. They're like, I'll just
Boom.
use that.
Good enough. Exactly.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like design ideas are, you could say it's just a circle. It's, there's only a certain amount of stuff you can do, but still, it was an egregious ripoff.
Very not cool. All right. Well, hey, let's go to commercial break since we solved a bunch of problems. I feel like our work here is almost done. Let's go to commercial.
So many problems.
So many. Heavy lifting today. And then we'll come back from commercial with a fun segment, barrel or not. Chaz, we're back. I don't know if I haven't really kept you in the loop, but we got some new advertisers this month.
I love, who do we got?
We got Factor Meals.
Factor Meals, where do they send you food and you can cook it at home and make delicious things that you do yourself?
Even better. You don't even have to cook it. That is the thing. Like those meal kits that you have to cook at home were big for a while. This is a step beyond that. It's actually already cooked. It takes 2 minutes to heat up, and they're gourmet, like restaurant quality meals.
I've been waiting for this because I don't like to cook, David Lee Scales.
Yeah, this is a smoking deal. Our discount will get the meals down to like $7 a meal, I think.
And
they're
I'm gonna
like
go listen
fantastic.
to the show to get our code and buy it myself.
Factormeals.com/surf50 will get you that 50%. We've got Rocket Money.
I like Rocket and I like money.
So yeah, we're doing good this month. It's a good month. Okay, so barrel or nah, believing in Bigfoot.
Ooh, I'm not gonna get burned again, David Lee Scales. I'm going barrel because you want to know where we all got burned? Hard. Aliens, for pity's sake, spaceships and whatnot, UFOs. They are legitimate. I don't know if aliens are real, but UFOs are real now. They are unidentified flying objects. They're unidentified, but Air Force, everybody, they're like seeing this stuff and they're put it out. Like, I don't know what it is, man. It's moving in a way that's inhuman, or not to our capabilities. That being said, I got fried on that one. I was like, aliens don't exist. So now doors open, man. Bigfoot, sure. Loch Ness Monster, maybe. Who's to say?
Why not? Why not? And why not just believe? Like when I watch there's shows that exist that are about Bigfoot hunting, and then you look into it and there's a whole subculture of people, some of whom have dedicated their life to finding Bigfoot. And I think maybe that's a bridge too far, but why not believe? There's a lot of joy in believing.
What if little Austin comes to you and says he has his Bigfoot book? Daddy, read me about Bigfoot. I love this character Bigfoot. And you say, Austin, let me tell you out of the gate, yes, I'll read you this book. This is fake. This is fake garbage. Poor little Austin. Now, like, robbing magic from the world, to what end? Like, okay, cool. Now I'm just cynical about everything. And then the problem is, so you rob magic from the world, and then, well, turns out there are some magical things, right? So
the internet is magical.
Yes.
Everything's magical.
David Lee Scales.
I do too. I'm totally fine with this. And I watch those Bigfoot. I don't watch those Bigfoot shows, but when I've seen clips of those Bigfoot shows, the people that are chasing Bigfoot have more wonderment in their life than I do as it relates to anything that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about surfing. I'm passionate about food and wine. I don't love it as much as that guy loves Bigfoot.
No, I mean, same with the person who loves the Loch Ness Monster. Like all of these people who are like into their sub thing. Is Yeti and Bigfoot the same or no? Like, is the Sasquatch and like, is one of them just in the abdominal snowman? Are they the same? One's just in the snow and one's in the rainforests of
I think
Oregon?
they're different breed.
They're
different breed of the
different
same
creatures.
thing.
Okay.
I think it's different breed of Sasquatch. So there is Abominable Snowman, and then within the realm of the phylum of Sasquatch.
Yeah.
And then there's Bigfoot, which is the warm-weathered version.
The poor Yeti is there just slaving away, making coolers for professional surfers who get 10s in heats and apparently cannot make them quick enough. And so the World Surf League can only throw out 110 per event.
Exactly. All right, good. Believing in Bigfoot. The other thing is I was on Instagram yesterday, I think, and somebody published there's a new species of reptile, of snake. It was like this huge python that lived underwater.
Yeah.
There was a diver down at the bottom of the ocean and this giant snake swimming past him, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, we had never seen this before." So the fact is, we
Stuff
don't know what all
exists.
exists.
No, stuff exists we haven't seen and discover all the time.
Exactly. I do believe the footage that exists, that one blurry clip of Bigfoot, that could be faked. Like that could just be a hoax, but that doesn't mean that Bigfoot doesn't exist.
Exactly. Just because there is a hoax doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
not true.
Agreed. Do you remember that old Mitch Hedberg joke about Bigfoot?
No.
Do you know Mitch Hedberg, the comedian?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just he has like one-liners. It's like
Yeah.
a setup and a punchline, and that's it. It's not connected to a narrative or anything like that. But his joke was maybe Bigfoot was blurry. It wasn't the photographer's fault. There's just a big blurry monster walking around the woods, and that's extra scary to me.
Yep.
It's pretty good. All right. Coming off of a bunch of news from Beyonce, I think Lana Del Rey, barrel or not, country music.
Boom, man. I mean, that Beyonce song has been on loop in the house thanks to young daughter. So it's a hard one, David Lee Scales. It's a hard one for me. But I'm going to go barrel. I'm going to say there's no bad genres of music. There's only bad people.
Bad people making a version of that genre?
Yeah, maybe. Like every genre of music is good and rich in and of itself. There's only bad versions of that genre.
How's the Beyonce song?
Have you listened to it?
No.
It's good. It's catchy. It's yeah, like the person who dislikes that song, prima facie, has a problem.
Okay.
Like there's nothing to dislike about that song.
Okay. Is it country though?
Country. It is like it's not a hybrid thing. It is
Okay.
straight country.
I guess where I get confused, like I see all these headlines of all of these non-country artists, singers basically, now releasing and announcing that they're releasing a country album or country song. I'm like, it's only because country music has gotten so popular and mainstream that there's money to be made off of it that they are now shifting genres, right? It's not as if she was spending the last year in Wyoming and developed a love for the culture.
I don't know.
And
She grew
then
up in
was
Texas, though, I do believe. I think Beyonce is from Texas. So it would have
Texas
been like
isn't all country though.
it's not, but it would have been part of Beyonce's surroundings growing up.
Yeah.
Like, so it could be for her a return, like Lana Del Rey, I'm not so sure about. But also, I'm not mad at or not gender bending, what genre
Genre.
bending, I will say. Like, I like it. I like a good throw me a curveball, right? Like when did you ever listen to Lil Wayne's metal album?
No.
You didn't?
No.
Worth it. I think I bought the thing on CD, in fact, even. Uh
That's hilarious.
yeah, so I'm all about it. I'm all about, oh, let's see what you got, right? It's fun to get out of your what you're comfortable with and try something new, even if it's just for trying something new. And yeah, country music, sure, it's not, I don't listen to country music, but like what you appreciate as a listener and what is valuable are two entirely different things. And I'm going to
Yeah.
say every genre of music minus Jack Harlow has value.
Um, I guess I don't even know what country music is anymore, to be honest. Like when I grew up, Willie Nelson and Waylon Jennings and stuff like that was
But
country, you
but
know, a Marshall Tucker band, maybe.
even old Willie Nelson, I think, would be more folk than country these days.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. It's all kind of shifted.
Jason
I do
Aldean.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, all of that, like everything after Garth Brooks, I feel like is entirely different. And I didn't listen to Garth Brooks either, but I do remember when I was really young, being introduced to Elton John released a country album, and it was called Tumbleweed Connection. And it
Yep.
was before I was born, but at least my parents at least like gave me the education on it, where he was fascinated by Western culture and American culture. And he was in, England, and wrote and performed an album from the perspective of the Old West.
Why not?
Just
David
like
Lee
take on
Scales?
the character of the Old West, write it as a script, and then sing it.
Why not?
Crazy.
Barrel.
All right, Barrel Country. I got another joke about country music, by the way. I had a joke
Yeah.
about Bigfoot. I think it was Martin Short. This is who I heard say it. I don't know who the joke originally was, but he was like, I don't want to disparage anybody who likes country music, but and for those of you who like country music, disparage means to express negatively.
Good job, Martin Short.
Yeah, appreciate that. Okay, final barrel and I'll come from a listener. Adding a gun to your quiver. Quote, DLS and Chaz. I'm a Southern California surfer, been surfing for 20 years. I'm a lifelong intermediate and never felt any draw to surf proper big wave spots. It felt totally foreign, like a different sport to imagine prepping for Mavericks or Waimea. However, this winter, we've had some big days at Swamis or Blacks where I am absolutely undergunned. These days, and are few and far between, but I also spend time in the Central Coast, and I'm aware of plenty of less crowded, bigger wave spots. And where I'm now fantasizing, if I were to invest in a bigger board, maybe I would start leveling up. Or maybe the board would end up just sitting in the rafters of my garage and be a total waste of money and just a reflection of having listened to too much Joe Rogan, thinking that I'm more masculine than I really am. So barrel or not, adding a semi-gun to the quiver.
I'm going to say full barrel, a complete barrel. And so here's the thing, this barrel comes with a lot of responsibility, where I love the drive here. I love the motivation. I love being out at bigger Swami, say, which is a perfect example, right? And being undergunned. You just can't, like, for those big waves, and we watch our professional heroes and heroines scratching into sunset on what, like 6.2s, right?
Yeah, crazy.
The average man cannot do that. You need foam and lots of foam when it gets big. You need to, we're not them. So you need it. You need a gun. So if our dear listener is thinking, I've tasted this, I wonder, but I don't know, if I get it, will it just sit in the rafters or will I actually use it? So here's the thing, get it. If you don't use it within the first year, sell it. Like, do not have a gun sitting there, A, mocking you, B, in case somebody comes to your garage, sees your gun, looks up at it and says, oh, sick. Because then you got to play it off like, yeah, I mean,
it's not even
it
waxed.
it gets big a couple days. I don't know. I've been out on it a couple times. You don't want to be that. Like, if you're going to use it to push you, but you'll only know if you get the gun, right?
Yeah.
It's a win-win either way. The loss is going to be you're going to have to sell it and then take a hit if you don't use it or get rid of it. But go try. Like, you don't want to wait on this thing. I think if you have the impulse, you don't want to sit and wait, because that impulse will die. A year goes by and you'll say, thought about it, but oh man, will I? I don't know. You can hem and haw until you are in the grave. Pull the trigger on this.
I also think the idea of like, is this me just trying to be too macho is not accurate. Like, you get to a certain level of surfing experience where you're just comfortable in those style of waves. And, you're probably not going to paddle out at Mavericks and sit on the peak, or paddle out at Waimea and sit on the peak, but there are balmy waves, and Swamis is kind of like that, where it's like there's soft sections that you can easily chip into if you have enough foam, paddle into, where it's not a critical drop or anything like that. And just feeling that amount of ocean energy under you is what you're going for. And in that case, you actually don't need a gun. You don't need like a semi gun. Maybe if you're surfing Blacks in that scenario, you would. But if you're just looking to take advantage of those big days in the wintertime and try to get a 10-foot face or 15-foot face, there's other boards, bigger boards that can play double duty on small days.
Are you talking about a mid-length David Lee scales?
Something. I mean, you could, yeah, mid-length would work. Or there was Devin posted a photo this past week of something that wasn't their mid-length model. I think they called it like a dad bod or something like that, where it was just like more foam. It had 3 fins on it, but you could ride it on a smaller day too, and have fun on it, like on a point break. Or like I have this paddle surf vehicle from Dave Parmenter, that's like 12 feet long that I could ride on 1 foot waves, which you wouldn't be able to ride anything else on. But because it's so much foam, it's like a glider almost. Or you could ride it at big balmy waves. And so that's what I'm kind of thinking of for the listener, like getting a pointy
Gun.
semi gun is a very specific type of wave that you're looking for, and that you do need a certain level of tenacity to try to get into.
Unless
But
though he's going to use that as motivation, right? If he's like, hey, look,
yeah,
I know these waves exist. I want to start chasing these waves. This board is going to be the slingshot to allow me to pursue this. Without this board, I won't pursue it. And if I get a double duty thing, I probably won't pursue it either. If I have a specific, this is a gun. This is for a specific kind of big wave. That means I'm going to go do it, or at least try. And if I don't,
okay.
then I know.
All right. Well, we will remain divided on this one. I'm going go double duty. And then when the swell presents itself, you're ready to go. You've got something in the quiver, but you can use it elsewhere. Chaz will stick with level up.
Get a gun.
Listen to Joe Rogan and drink your buttered coffee and
Chase
go
it
for
with
it.
ag1.com/surf.
There you
I mean,
go.
drink ag1.com/surf just to make sure you got your bases covered.
You're like a true professional, Chaz. And Joe Rogan drinks that stuff,
Sure
drink
does.
ag1.com/surf as well. I've seen him talk about it. All right. Well, hey, we did some good work today. Anything else going on that you need to discuss?
I think that's it. I think it's just looking forward to Portugal here, looking forward to the imminent announcement of World Surf League sale, where now that I know it's this year, I'm going to start pinpointing that this sale, it is imminent because can you believe it or not, we are almost in the Northern Hemisphere, at least almost a spring, which means the Olympics is that much closer. Oh, we didn't even talk about Felipe claiming he's going to train for the Olympics on his mental health break, but save that for another day. But the what?
Somebody, by the way, somebody pointed out, I didn't listen to Felipe. So Felipe was in the booth with Joe Turpel during the Sunset event. They interviewed him.
Yeah.
And somebody pointed out to me that Felipe said, when Joe asked, like, hey, tell me about why you decided to take the year off or whatever, Felipe hemmed and hawed and then said explicitly, it's not anything that my family told me to do. And like Joe Turpel did not say
Yeah.
anything about his family. There was no mention, but Felipe like hemmed and hawed and then wouldn't say exactly why, other than he wants to spend time with his family, but explicitly stated it wasn't something that my family told me to do, which makes me feel like it's something your family told you to do.
I mean, but why would his family tell him to do that? It's really weird. That's how he earns his living.
Yeah, that's true.
But I mean, he said, like, I heard him in the booth, right? And he was like, they asked, what are you going to do immediately? I'm going to go back home. And, I'm just going to get in the rhythm of home. I'm going to take the kids to school, pick them up, all that. All fine and good. No fun making there, except for the fact that somebody else had DM'd me and said, who is around tour, and said, Felipe Toledo has his family with him more than any other athlete on tour. Like, they are always here. So the family excuse seems a bit flimsy, but we don't even have to get into that anymore, David Lee Scales. We just know that he needs a mental health break. Let's just
good news is he seemed to be in good health in that interview.
His stomach seemed strong. It seemed like whatever food poisoning issue had passed, and he seemed healthy.
So that's great news.
Yes.
Great news. Felipe's back. All right. All right. Well, then go to beachgrit.com in the meantime until next week, and surfsplendorpodcast.com to click on the links to the advertisers and our sponsors. Get yourself a deal and optimal health. And until next week.
Keep work.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much.
All right. See you next week.